Are you experiencing wrist pain and you're wondering what type of brace would be helpful for your wrist pain? Hi there, it's Neesha from My Favourite Physio. In today's video, I'm jumping in to quickly share with you when to use which splint for your wrist pain. So here at My Favourite Physio, we see lots of people who come in complaining of wrist pain. They might have a wrist pain because they fell onto it and sprained their wrist but not broke any bones. It might be because of repetitive movements, so like picking up a baby, patting a baby, that gave them wrist pain, or it's simply the kind of work they do. So, if they're a painter or if they're scrubbing, cleaning all the time at home as part of house chores, that can cause wrist pain. Regardless of the cause of your wrist pain, what is important is to have an expert physiotherapist assess your wrist pain so that they can give you the best treatment options. One of the things we might recommend for our patients with wrist pain is different wrist brace. And recently we met a patient who was given a wrist brace by another therapist, and initially it was helpful, but after a while it actually was more painful to wear it. So I thought I would jump in and share with you the two different types of wrist splints that you might encounter when you're getting your wrist pain treated by a therapist. So broadly, you could divide that to either having a rigid splint or a dynamic splint. So a rigid splint like this one actually has a metal bar inside there, which makes the splint not flexible. So it's rigid, and it is to serve as a splint to keep your wrist in neutral position. These rigid splints really are going to limit your movements. So you shouldn't be wearing it and trying to do activities like driving or cleaning, because you'll find that your wrist is actually fighting against that rigid splint. So these splints are better for resting. So you might want to use them when you are initially really acute pain and you just find that any movement and jarring hurts it. So you want to stabilize it by wearing this wrist splint. So this is actually a left splint. So you want to wear that when you're resting your arm and not doing activities. So a great time to use it is often as a night splint to rest your wrist in neutral so that your wrist is ready for the next day when you have to use it. Now, when you have to use your wrist, we would recommend a dynamic splint. So something a little bit more flexible, usually just fabric. This wrist splint will allow you to use your arm, but yet give your wrist a little bit of support. So it is flexible. It allows you to use your hand, but gives you that support like someone's holding your wrist as you move about. You can see that because the palm is clear, it allows you to be washing your hands and doing stuff and not wet your splint. So a dynamic splint like this is great for the daytime when you have to do things and use your arms to drive or to pick up baby, because there's some things you can't stop doing. So broadly, these two types of splints will help at different times, and very often our patients can have a day splint and a night splint. So if you're out there putting up with wrist pain and you're always wearing a rigid splint, any sorts of, splinting that has some sort of metal bit to it, it's probably not helpful because it's causing more pain when you're trying to use your hand. Then you need to consider getting a more dynamic wrist splint. So if you're out there putting up with wrist pain and you would love some help to overcome it, why don't you ring us here at My Favourite Physio, speak to one of our expert physiotherapists. The number to ring is 0297904233. And if you know somebody out there who's putting up with wrist pain, why don't you like and share this video with them? Until next time, have a fabulous day. Bye.